Hello everyone, welcome to Lukman IS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 27th November 2020. So let us see which are the important articles in today's The Hindu newspaper. These are the articles for mains purpose and for prelims purpose. We have segregated them. Yes. So first article on page number 6, editorial. Yesterday itself we have discussed this news that yes, 2 days back that the cyclone Nivar has devastated, has let's say devastating impact on Tamil Nadu and coastal Andhra Pradesh as well as we can say Puducherry Union Territory. So the article here is discussing from disaster management perspective. Earlier, yesterday, the day before yesterday, we talked about from geography perspective, like cyclone, some preconditions for formation of tropical cyclone and all these things, right? So here we are going to discuss cyclone as a disaster and disaster management that is required, because yes, India is one of the country wherein we observe frequent tropical cyclones making landfall on especially eastern coast of India. So more cyclones originate in Bay of Bengal and they somehow we can say reach to the eastern coast of India, and therefore some of the eastern states like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha and West Bengal, they are very much vulnerable for such kind of disasters. So article is discussing about the preparedness this time we had, at the same time some lacuna and work needs to be done. Okay, so cyclone Nivar, disaster management. The reported loss of at least 3 lives is relatively low toll for such large scale weather system, although property and agriculture have suffered considerable damage from fierce winds and massive volume of rain in Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. This time this disaster preparedness has been very good because of 2 factors. One is there was welcome emphasis on periodic alerts and warning by IMD. It is getting better and better at forecasting slow moving linear tropical cyclones in Bay of Bengal. At the same time, deployment of over 2 dozen NDRF team, National Disaster Response Force teams and disaster management equipments along coast reassured civic agencies. Okay, so these 2 important aspects in disaster preparedness, they have been very helpful, or we can say we have worked on these 2 in recent years very well. Analysis. The aftermath now presents an opportunity to make full assessment, not just distribution of relief but also understand the impact of extreme monsoon weather. There is extensive documentation on loss of its flood, let's say Chennai and its floodplains, lakes and peri-urban wetlands to the encroachment. So it is talking about Chennai in article. Okay, a key factor that is exacerbated by monsoon flooding. So we can say that the urban floods in Chennai in 2015, 5 years back, severe urban floods were witnessed in Chennai, and these were the reasons: encroachment on floodplains, lakes and peri-urban wetlands. The governments have not shown the rigor to collect and publish data on annual flooding patterns and measure the peak flows in the neglected rivers and canals to plan remedies. So this is again one of the factors that needs to be worked upon. Appalling indifference to the land use norms has spawned an amorphous housing sector characterized by inflated speculative prices but no foundation of civic infrastructure. So again one of the factor, basically it is talking about the need of appropriate urban planning and development. Okay, so this is the major aspect to reduce the impact of such disaster. In conclusion, we can say that to keep Tamil Nadu competitive, governments and local bodies should work hardwire urban planning and invest heavily for future of frequent disruptive weather. Okay, so this is the input that we should take about cyclone as disaster and disaster management and preparedness. Fine. Yes, the next editorial context here is that recently the UP government has promulgated ordinance on unlawful religious conversions. So yesterday we talked about that news, and we also talked about that there will be analysis in editorial. So today itself there is analysis regarding this, and some important cases of Supreme Court and High Court has been provided as a reference, and how this law may not, let's say, pass the test of judicial scrutiny. So this is what the article is analyzing. Along with that, it is saying that such kind of laws which can be misused by states and further deepen the social divides are already present in Indian society. Okay, yes. So UP government ordinance on unlawful religious conversions. The proposed UP ordinance seeking to prohibit unlawful religious conversions represents a regressive march towards unacceptable medievalism and reprehensible zeal to police the private life and beliefs of the citizens. So this is the major concern here we can talk about. Apparently inspired by similar legislation in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. So freedom of religion law in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand has somehow similar provisions. Only the change is here is that we can say that the alluring into the marriage, the wording has changed, and they have let's say made it as allurement by marriage and not directly just word as a marriage. Okay, so as to, let's say, bypass the judicial scrutiny. We will talk about that. An additional ground for declaring instance of religion conversion illegal apart from the use of force, coercion, undue influence and deceit. So these are fine. Okay, so force, coercion, undue influence and deceit, this is somehow against the fundamental rights of the people, and this the state has responsibility to avoid or protect the people from such forceful conversions. However, this marriage, we can say, provision can be misused because the state can enter into the private lives of the people and the beliefs of the citizens, which is, let's say, domain of individual under Article 21, right to life or liberty, along with, let's say, right to conscience in, let's say, Article 25. Okay, so our analysis here, it is giving that while upholding the validity of Freedom of Religion Acts of Madhya Pradesh and Odisha in Stanislaus 1977, the Supreme Court had held that right to propagate religion did not include right to convert. However, those early laws did not bar conversions by marriage. First argument, that these laws somehow depended on the, let's say, word that is public order. Right now it is including this marriage factor, and this was not present in earlier legislations by MP and Odisha. After court's right to privacy judgment in Safin Jahan Hadia case 2018, this is important reference, it would be no more constitutional to use marriage as a ground for prohibiting conversion, as it involves right to privacy, choice and marital freedom. So from that we can understand this will not have test of or pass judicial scrutiny, because this marriage is the fundamental right to choice. Okay, so this has been asked in UPSC prelims examination also, that marrying the person of choice is the fundamental right under which article. So वहाँ पे आपको confusion था बहुत लोगों को कि article 19 के अंडर आता है freedom या फिर article 21 के अंडर आता है. So that is under article 21, right to life with personal liberty. So that is where this choice is provided. We can say that fundamental right. Further, all such previous laws were seen as public order legislation. The claim is that forced or fraudulent conversions lead to disturbance of order, and interfaith marriage by itself is unlikely to be seen by the courts as event impinging on public order. Okay, so that we can say that this word may be removed from this legislation, that allurement by marriage, because that can be misused. Probably to avoid such this lacuna, UP ordinance used this term allurement, but its potential for misuse is the same. Further, the provision on mandatory prior declaration of an intent to convert, similar to the struck down by Himachal Pradesh High Court in 2012 as violating the right to keep one's faith as secret, Okay, so similar kind of provision in Himachal Pradesh law was struck down by Himachal Pradesh High Court, that the prior declaration of intent to convert under this UP law, हमने कल ही देखा था, that 2 months prior notice and the kind of let's say procedure to be followed, एक form भरना है, and that intention to convert has to be declared with district administration. ये सब चीज़ें जो है it violates one's faith to keep secret, the right to keep one's faith as a secret. Okay, so conclusion, it is disconcerting that several states are keen to join this bandwagon against intermarriages despite its potential for deepening social discord and communal divides. So this aspect can be included in the conclusion, that it has a long lasting impact on already social divides, discords that we have in our society. So such kind of question we can attempt here. UP government ordinance on unlawful religious convergence is not only unconstitutional but also legislation which deepens social discord and communal divides. Comment. So here we can write some arguments in favor of the statement. Along with that, we should be providing some objective provisions of the let's say law, along with some let's say references of this Supreme Court and High Court cases, so as to justify how it is unconstitutional, and along with some arguments from the ethical perspective or social perspective, that how it deepens social discord and communal divides. Fine? Yes. Again, this is important article. Earlier also we discussed vaccine nationalism when it was in news at that time. However, this article is also discussing, along with that, some way forward it is providing, that what is the role of present government of the country, along with that multilateral institutions, to avoid any kind of profiteering or let's say vaccine nationalism which has or impinges on equity or equitable distribution of vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, and its supply and delivery. Okay, so this becomes important from ethics perspective, along with essay, vaccine nationalism. Okay, so let us try to understand what is given in the article. Some important statements: it is illegal to hoard for black marketing essential goods in drought affected areas. Overcharging of commodities and services during any natural disaster is always a scandal. It is crime against humanity to make profit during any human tragedy. On contrary, there should be empathy and concern about human suffering. So this becomes important from ethics perspective, that whenever there is human tragedy, be it war, be it a natural hazard like earthquake is there, tsunami is there, or such kind of natural hazards, when there is a human suffering, there should be a, let's say, feeling of compassion, there should be feeling of empathy rather than profiteering or self motive or self interest. Okay, so COVID-19 pandemic, also human tragedy, needs global solidarity. It is definitely not time to doing business or making fast buck. Making enormous profit out of human tragedy is shameful. Business lies in selling technologies around COVID-19 diagnostics, drugs and vaccine candidates. And we have seen that how various pharma companies are focusing on profiting from drug development and vaccine development, and this is how the context of the article is talking about, कि ये होना नहीं चाहिए, right? So vaccine nationalism, we cannot allow the rich and the strong to grab everything first. The advance purchase agreements that some countries have negotiated with pharma companies exemplify such adverse trends. Such vaccine nationalism undermines equitable access to vaccine. Okay, so this is very important aspect, equitable in a sense that those which are least developed countries, poor countries, they should also receive their share of vaccine as public good. This is what the article is talking here, that there has to be prioritization of high risk groups in all countries. This is equitable distribution, equitable access, especially in least developed or low and middle income nations. The COVAX partnership is the mechanism for ensuring that Gavi, Global Alliance for Vaccine Initiative, which has been already there before COVID-19 itself, and now this platform is being used for COVID vaccine supply and delivery to different countries or member countries of this partnership. WHO has also exhorted member countries to treat COVID-19 technologies as public good. Now let us try to understand this meaning of public good. A public good is a common property of the nation, and such goods are not exclusable, or there should not be any rivalries in dealing with it. If it is a public good, the government must step in to regulate its development, innovation, manufacture, sale, supply ultimately to the public. So it is talking about the vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine. If there is a public financing for technology development, there is no scope for granting patent protection. This is important aspect we can understand from public good. A public good cannot be submitted to vagaries of market fluctuations of pricing dependent on supply and demand dynamics. Okay, and therefore government should be the custodian of public goods. Role of multilateral institutions. Now this role of multilateral institutions is very important here. For example, United Nations one of the United Nations body, WTO, compulsory licensing. This provision is there. It is an involuntary contract used by national government between a willing buyer or local manufacturer and unwilling seller, patent holder, foreign company. So this can be invoked for vaccine delivery mechanism here. Okay, seizing the opportunity of WTO itself, mapping out key trade issues arising out of COVID-19 vaccine and fostering dialogue. India and South Africa jointly sent out the communication on 2nd October 2020 to IPR Council, Intellectual Property Rights Council of WTO, for waiver of protection of copyright, design, trademarks and patent to COVID-19 related technologies including vaccine. And this has garnered huge support, like almost 43 members of African group, 36 members of least developed countries group from South Asian association. Apart from South Asian association जो है जो ASEAN countries है for regional cooperation countries, Indonesia, Venezuela, Nicaragua, all these countries have supported the efforts of India and South Africa in this regard in WTO. Okay. And UN organizations such as WTO can wield influence on member nations to forego the trade profits for humanitarian cause. So this is the role of international bodies, multilateral mechanism, so as to ensure equitable distribution of vaccine which is to be treated as public good. Along with that, the role of government, because it cannot be left to the market dynamics or vagaries of market demand and supply dynamics, because the price fluctuations will hamper the supply or delivery of such goods, such technologies to poor people in the country. Fine. So very good article. Try to take input for this type of question here. COVID-19 vaccine should be considered as public good and profiting of such goods should not be allowed. With reference to this statement, discuss the role of government and multilateral institutions to ensure equitable and affordable vaccine delivery. So such kind of question can be expected this year mains itself. PM pitches for one nation, one election. Now again there will be some discussion and deliberation. This topic has been there in news in last 1 decade for many times. At the same time, since 2014 we can say the NDA government, when it came to power in central let's say or union government, so it has been focusing on bringing this electoral reforms, simultaneous election, one nation, one election. This basically means that the election to Lok Sabha and election to state assemblies should be carried out simultaneously. The basic motive here is that we know or we can understand that every year there will be some elections in different states, and because of that what happens is the energy of both state government as well as central government goes into the election campaigning, and all these things happens, and the focus is shifted from development aspect to the winning that election. So majority of, let's say, resources are invested in such kind of election campaigning, and therefore the Prime Minister is completely focusing on one nation one election, wherein there will be, let's say, streamlining of all state assembly elections and the Lok Sabha election or general elections. So this is what the reform is talking about, but for that purpose you need to let's say refer to this document, a discussion paper by Niti Aayog, analysis of simultaneous elections, what, why and how. You can click on this document or this link that we have provided. You can download the PDF from YouTube. तो वहाँ पे आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में ये प्रोवाइड किया हुआ है PDF, तो उसमें आप क्लिक करके देख सकते हैं. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल, लेट्स से document. You will get all important information related to this conducting of simultaneous elections in one document itself. Pros and limitations and how it should be done, all these things are given in that article. Very well, we can say articulated document. Prime Minister Narendra Modi again pitched for one nation one election, saying that it is need of the country as elections taking place every few months hamper the development works. He was addressing the concluding session of 80th All India Presiding Officers Conference via video conference. Elections are held at different places every month and it hampers the developmental work, and all of you know about this. Therefore, it must to have deep study and deliberation on one nation one election, he said. At the same time, he also talked about a single voter list for all polls in the country. For that purpose, only one voter list should be used for Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha and other such elections in the country. And why are we wasting time and resources on having different kind of poll list or voter list? Okay, so this is the argument put forward by Prime Minister in that address in the conference. For details of this simultaneous election, you refer to this document. At the same time, if tomorrow or let's say day after tomorrow, there will be some important articles on editorial page of the Hindu on this idea. Again, we will discuss in detail for base purpose. Along with that, there will be detailed analysis in your ED lectures, editorial discussion lectures, surely on this topic also. Okay, so important captions and quotations. So that article which was talking about vaccine nationalism, suppose there is essay or question on ethics. So vaccine nationalism और ethics में आपको ethics in business ऐसे आपको पता होना चाहिए, इस पे क्वेश्चन आ सकता है. Okay, so you can use these very good captions and let's say statements or arguments in your answers. Fine. So these were important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. For further information on editorial discussion classes or ED classes, wherein in-depth analysis of all these mains related articles is done by Ansari sir and team, you can contact Lukman IAS. Thank you.